We're at the meeting.
And I got there's a mic right in front of the phone, Kathy, so everything you say is going to be picked up, okay? Yes, please. Yep. We on?
Yep. Okay. Okay, good evening, everybody. I hereby announce that pursuant to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the notice which was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and posted on the bulletin board in Township Hall and filed in the Township Clerk's office on January 6, 2021. Mayor Bontempo?
Here.
Ms. Weber?
Here.
Mr. Gratelli is not here this evening. Mr. Lucarelli?
Here.
Mr. Santana?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence on our troops, both home and abroad, who work tirelessly to protect us each and every day. Thank you. Welcome to Holmdel Township Committee's meeting September 14, 2021. First motion of business is approval of minutes from the July 13, 2021 executive and public sessions. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Oh, second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
The minutes from July 13th have been successfully approved.
Thank you, Wendy. Next is any public comment on agenda items on tonight's agenda only. Anybody have any public on tonight's agenda items? Seeing none, the public, I'll close public portion. For consent agenda, items 2021-232 to 2021-252. I think we have a amendment by Councilor.
Yes, correct. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Just a minor note: the resolution for resolution 2021-252 notes a red line. We attached a clean version of the personnel manual, so we'll amend the resolution in the morning to note that it's a clean copy of the resolution that is up for adoption tonight, just to avoid any confusion.
Thank you. Do I have a motion, please?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
I would like to recuse myself from item 2021-250 as it involves a contract award for the 2021 road improvement program, which I've identified includes pavement of certain roads within my neighborhood. While I don't have any role in the determination by the Township Department of Infrastructure to include the roads in this year's program, out of an abundance of caution and in the spirit of transparency, I'm recusing from that particular resolution. With the exception of that, I'm yes with a no.
Thank you. Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
So resolutions 2021-232 and 2021-252 as amended have been successfully approved.
Thank you, Wendy. Next is introduction of ordinance 221-35.
Yes, ordinance 2021-35 is an ordinance establishing section 17-2.8 titled Infrastructure Adjoining Township Rights of Way. Motion to adopt on first reading and publish in the Asbury Park Press and set the public hearing for September 28th, 2021.
Do I have a motion?
Move. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-35 will be published and set for public hearing for September 28th, 2021.
Next is hearings, Wendy.
Hearing on ordinance 2021-31, which is an ordinance amending ordinance 4-3 titled Licensing and Regulation of Sales and Construction Trailers.
Thank you, Wendy. Before I open the public, I just want the council just to write a summary of what this ordinance is.
Sure, Mayor. This ordinance governs construction trailers, and there's a licensing regime that needs to be followed for any trailer that's going to be sited in the township. on the recommendation of the code enforcement officer. This simply streamlines the process. Rather than needing to come to the township committee, the code enforcement officer can either issue or deny permits in her discretion in order to streamline things for applicants.
Thank you. Any public comment on 2021-31?
Temporary trailers.
They're construction trailers, right? Yeah, construction trailers. Seeing none from the public, I'll close the public portion. Do I have a motion?
Move. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
2021-31 has been successfully adopted. The next hearing on ordinance 2021-34, which is an ordinance amending Chapter 30, Development Regulations of the Code of the Township of Holmdel.
Open for public comment on 2021-34. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Do I have a motion?
Move. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
2021-34 has been successfully adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. For department updates, Administrator, are you going to touch on the open space?
Yes, we do have, there's one additional resolution for the committee's approval for tonight. We would like to apply to Monmouth County for their open space grant funds for an off-road bike and pedestrian trail. Our municipal engineer has been working with the Traffic and Bike Safety Committee on this proposed trail, and this is a matching grant fund we hope to get and be able to bring this project to fruition. So it does need a separate section of the agenda, which is why we have it under the administrator's report, but this is largely due to the hard work of the TABS committee and our municipal engineer. So
Right.
I thank both of them.
I do too, thank you. So,
And Barbara in my office, who worked hard on
Yeah.
the grant.
so you need a motion, Sean?
Yes, please.
You have a motion?
Move. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Absolutely.
So Resolution 2021-253 has been successful passed.
Other than that, Mayor, I don't have an additional report, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. All good. Bill, CFO, any updates?
There's no updates tonight, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ben, engineering, anything from you?
Nothing specific tonight, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Counselor, any updates?
No update. Happy to answer any questions.
Perfect, thank you. Go to boards and committees. I'll start to my far left. Commitment Lucarelli, any updates?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no updates from the Department of Public Works, but I do want to give a real nice compliment on Sharon and you also, Mayor, on the I attended the September 11th memorial, and I have to say it was just a wonderful event. It was done very, very well, and I was just really proud, for the way it was conducted and all who attended. So it was just a really nice event, and I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who put it together and organized it and ran the event. So thank you.
Thank you. It means a lot. The team at Town Hall put a lot of work. I think we started back in May with the initial planning of the session, and for those that went, it was a great turnout, as you saw, Commitment, and really very proud of the way everybody in town came together for the event. But thank you very much for your comments. It means a lot. Thank you. Anything else? No. Okay. Commitment Santana.
Yeah, I too would like to start with by congratulating for a fantastic job in putting up a very good event. I don't have any updates, but I do want to discuss one item, which is I'm sure you've received letters from Palmer Square. The plight of the residents at Palmer Square is getting worse. There's a lot of flooding there. We have to do something about it. So last week I had an opportunity to talk to Victor to see if there's any land anywhere to create a retention basin. And it turns out there are large tracts of land behind TD Bank on Laurel Avenue that's considered wetland. And I spoke to Bill Castning on the planning committee, who's here, and he said it's on the Rossi, apparently, and we have to go to DEP to see if they would allow a retention basin on either side of the Marlborough Brook. Interestingly, Middletown will also be impacted, so they may be interested in joining us as well. Additionally, since we are increasing the open space tax by a penny, since it's a flooding issue, we could potentially use those funds to build the retention basin. So what I would like to ask is if the committee is interested to see if we could do an exploratory study with the engineer, whoever it is, and ask for a resolution to do the exploratory study.
So I was out there with Ben and Sharon a year ago, I think it was. Was it a year ago last summer?
Yeah, I think it was last
Yeah.
time.
So we walked the entire property to see what was going on, what's transpired. And if I recall correctly, and Phil, jump in, some of the lines for the streams that run back there weren't necessarily depicted on the map accurately that we were looking at, because over time I guess the water table has changed and certainly has impacted the area over. Is that accurate?
That's generally the gist, yeah.
Yeah. So I know we kicked off a 20 Rutgers study, 2017, 16.
It was before my time.
Was it 17, 16?
Yeah,
17?
I'd be hard pressed to give you a precise date, man.
Yeah.
But it's been a while.
My view with this is, and Ben jump in, is to do anything, you can't just look at Palmer Square development per se. You need to look at the broader area, right? Because it's not just that little subdivision right there. It's all the other adjoining subdivisions that make a fairly large area to potentially review, correct?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the study talked about some overall changes that could be made to development regulations and things like that, and additional studies that would need to be done to figure out what the best course of action would be, because it is a very large drainage area that goes to the Mahoris Brook. It's not just isolated to that area around Palmer Square.
But if I understand, sorry.
I wanted to mention that it's my understanding that the Environmental Commission, which had originally been charged with working with Rutgers University on the study, has recently reached out to Rutgers, because the study was never actually finalized. I think a combination of a lot of things, COVID being the largest, it kind of got stalled for a little while. But very recently, I was in communication with the Environmental Commission, and I recommended to them to reach out to Rutgers again. So it is my understanding that Rutgers is back on the project. Hopefully that report can be finalized soon, and some of those recommendations might include the studies that you're referring to. We could have a specific, recommendation from them, and then we can then get quotes for the appropriate studies as they advise.
Yeah. So I attended the presentation about 2 years ago when they did the initial study. And one of the things that they brought up was the fact that we have to build retention basins upstream rather, not near Palmer Square, but way upstream, because that's the way to reduce the flow coming down to Palmer or other areas. So there's no point dealing with Palmer Square. It's better to do it upstream. And the question was, where's the land upstream to build retention basins? And so the point here was, here we have 2 tracts of land upstream that we should consider. I agree, if we want to wait for the Rutgers study, so be it. But eventually we'd want to consider slowing down the flow so that in the event there's a rainstorm like we had a month ago, that it's not inundating Palmer Square or other areas. You're retaining the water and then, of course, slowing down the flow of water downstream. So that's the whole idea. So.
So I think, Sean, I think the Rutgers study would be priority number one, and then two, I think it would be ask you to kind of coordinate a joint discussion with Middletown and the county, because it's a county road, right, with Ben Engineering involved, to kind of assess the entire area and what could be done, because it can't just be Holmdel, because Middletown is going to keep building, right, and it's going to keep flowing into Holmdel as we build, and potentially build basins to help it. But I think it's got to be a joint effort between the three parties right now to look at this, globally and see how we can impact it. Make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Good, Sean? Anything else?
Nope. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, any updates from you?
Yes, I would just like to add my thanks and recognition to Lisa Hedler, the township staff, the police, fire, EMS, scouts, and other volunteers for a very solemn and moving ceremony in memory of 9/11. 20 years ago, I was on the Board of Education at that time, and I will never forget. So thank you for doing that. It was, a really appropriate ceremony. I'd like to also add that the Rec Committee meeting that was supposed to be on Monday was rescheduled due to a conflict with the Director of Recreation, and the committee is waiting for that to be rescheduled, hopefully in the next week or two. And last, I'd just like to share that I am not physically present at tonight's meeting due to concerns with respect to COVID and the Delta variant. As a new grandmother of premature twins, I am not comfortable being in a room indoors with potentially unvaccinated and unmasked individuals, and am not in a position to take that risk. I'm looking forward to the time when, the variant is better under control and our vaccination levels are higher and it is safer, and returning to the meetings in public. Thank you.
Thank you. So a couple updates. One, start out with some solid news I just learned this evening. Our prior township attorney, who was probably jointly with he and his firm served for probably close to 2 decades, passed away. Bob Munoz. So if you remember, Dwayne Davidson and Bob Munoz, Dwayne was primary, and then Bob kind of filled in, and Bob took over when Wayne had some health issues. I understand he passed away, and just recently with a battle with cancer. So thoughts and prayers to his family. He was a great person to work with. I had the fortune to work with him for many years, and he will be sorely missed. I just want to share that publicly. Two, I wanted to again thank the entire team from Town Hall that as Commitment Luke Relly said initially, really put a very classy, solemn event together here at Town Hall last Friday. It was one that I was very proud to be a part of, and appreciate the outpouring and outreach from the community, and the people came out and supporting the families lost with loved ones that were perished on at 9/11, and it just goes to show that the community we have here is just amazing, really second to none, and very proud to be part of it. And that event was clearly a reflection of what we have here in Holmdel. Besides that, I don't have anything additional new. I know the road crews have been out. I was asked, based on the storm we had just last night, if people have branches down, they could reach out to us at Town Hall, and if we can, we'll do a second passing through to try to collect other branches that were damaged with the storm. I know we had some power outages again last night with JCP&L. I was one of them. Sharon knows what's next is my next letter to the president of JCP&L, telling them that they just continue to provide, inferior service to us at Holmdel. When asked at the session, the Senate session Sean and I were at in November, when they said they spent a couple $1 million on improvements. Majority of those improvements were not infrastructure, they were tree trimming improvements. That's what they call improvements of the infrastructure. And our infrastructure is, as many of you know, that are either here live with me and I are going to listen to this tape, are inferior. They've been in place for decades, and they haven't been changed or swapped out. And we continue to have, every time a storm comes through, outages in our town, and it's unfair. And then what I get as soon as I make the call is, conditions are too poor to send our crews out. You're going to have to wait a couple hours till the winds die down. And then hours become sometimes days, as some of you guys know. So very frustrating that we're dealing with this over, and like Groundhog Day with JCP&L over and over again. But we will then send off a letter, and we're going to get to our legislators as well, because more significant, I feel, penalties need to be applied on JCP&L for not performing up to standards. If they're going to be our monopoly utility, they need to perform better than they're performing. And I'm not happy. I know my TC members with me are not happy with their performance, and a letter will be forthcoming, and I will share it with the public in one of my upcoming newsletters, so you can see what we're saying and how we're communicating JCP&L, that we take this at Town Hall administration very seriously. That is it. I will now open up to any public questions and comments. Yes, sir. When you come up, please state your name and address for the record, and then you have your 3 minutes. Right, Wendy? I got a nod.
Jerry Buffalino, 20 Barbera Drive. I'm glad you brought up the Palmer Avenue flooding tonight, because I was coming down to discuss flooding in general. Stormwater management is a big issue today for everyone. And I hasten to think that if we got the 6 inches of rain that Bergen County got, we wouldn't be talking just about Palmer Avenue here, would we?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking more about, how do we maintain our stormwater drain system in this town? I've never seen it cleaned. I've never even seen it looked at. Township's responsible for that. And I know this because we have a drainage easement in our development, which 33 houses drain into. And about 8 or 9 years ago, it was flooding the end of our street, backing up. So I came down and I talked to people in town, and they told me, you got to go talk to the county because it's a 520 issue, it's their drains that are backing up. Well, it turns out our drains don't even connect with their drains. And the township engineer at the time, Ed Broberg, went over there and discovered that the drainage system had been built improperly. They had to dig it up and replace it. So why wait for a catastrophe to hit the town? That's what I'm thinking. And I know this probably will make the hair stand up on the back of some people's necks, but stormwater utilities are coming. They're a way to deal with these issues because they'd be more focused, I think, on the problems. Now, DJ will know this, on the zoning board, we get a lot of appeals for variances for people who exceed their lot coverage. And it's a hard thing to say to somebody, you can't have a swimming pool, or you can't put a patio in. A lot of these homes have been built of a size on a piece of property that takes up the entire property. They don't have any more space to put anything else on their property. So I'd just like to ask if you guys can give some attention to this. Because, I saw, my brother lives in Bergen County, I saw pictures of the flooding up there. It was horrendous. Because it's going to happen at some point, right?
So your statement is a testimonial for our open space initiative that we have for our referendum in November, because there are, I said it publicly over and over again, there are developers continually circling the town, dying to build on Holmdel, and they don't want to build on the current zoning requirements we have. Mm-hmm. 1 home for 2 acres, 1 home for 4 acres, doesn't matter. They want 5 homes an acre, they want 10 homes an acre, and it's a constant no. That's not what we want here. So, we've been doing a lot of work, and there's a couple key parcels of land that are still left, and if they are built on, it will significantly exacerbate the problem. It'll be out of control. So I'm not sure what type of stormwater management plan you can have in place. So the proactive thing to do is encourage people for the open space so we can preserve the open space that's here and try to help the situation in addition to not continuing to overcrowd our town, our streets, and everything else that we have to deal with.
Well, with the way the courts are handling the COA situation right now, builders have a right to take you to court, right? To deal with it. So
Only if you don't put a plan together.
We'll let you make that rhetorical statement because our hands are a little more tied than you on those
But
items.
I understand what you're saying. I do support that. The thing is, most of the southern slope is on clay soil. That does not drain. All right, so that even exacerbates the problem.
You got it?
And we're on septic down here, most of us.
Yep.
So we're always concerned about that, in addition to flooding our basements and things. So if the town hasn't looked at this before, which would probably be surprising to me if you hadn't, because there are many municipalities that haven't, embraced the concept of looking at this, especially, the county puts covers on their drains. I don't know if you noticed that, to block the larger section of the drain, which debris can flow into. Why can't we even look at that? Because I think that would help.
Yep, thank you.
All right?
Sean, you want to?
I just want to note, while I fully admit there's always room for improvement and that we can do more, between our Department of Infrastructure and our engineering department, we are well aware of stormwater issues. The teams do maintain the drains. We do put in, they're actually bike and pedestrian friendly drains as well, which block the debris. So we have a stormwater management master plan. So it's something that we do pay attention to. We do maintain the systems that we do have. As I started, doesn't mean that there's not room for improvement and that we need to continue to look at it. All of North Jersey, I could not get home last week or whatever week that was. So it's an issue that we're dealing with constantly, but I want to give credit to the teams of people that we do have working on it to try to maintain the systems we have that we do have. So.
Yeah.
Ben, you're looking at me, so I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I was just going to add as well, and I agree with everything you said, that the NJDEP has stormwater requirements that every municipality has to adhere with, which include things like putting bicycle safe grates on your inlets and the proper eco castings on the curb pieces. And Holmdel is in compliance with all those requirements. Victor's team, the Department of Infrastructure, does a very nice job with that.
Okay.
And I believe that ordinance was adopted earlier this year, so the updated DEP regs are on the books that Ben's referencing.
That's right.
Thank you, Ben.
So,
Yeah, good. Oh, good.
I just had a question for either Sharon or Ben. To Mr. Buffalino's point, is there a maintenance plan that the town has as far as cleaning the storm drains, like vacuuming? They have the big trucks that vacuum out all the debris and leaves that they collect. Is that something that we're on like a maintenance plan with, or is it do we use it as it's needed if there's a clogged drain or something?
Yeah, Public Works keeps records of how much debris they pull out of the storm drains and everything, and that's logged, and that's part of the DEP's municipal stormwater permit that's issued every year.
So I had one other update I forgot to mention in my updates. Our first meeting in October, which I believe is October 12th, we're going to do a recognition for first responders. Tried to do this last year, we couldn't do it. First responders, October 12th, and we probably going to be using for the TC meeting that night. We're going to be streaming from Bellworks. Some more information to come on it, but we're going to do acknowledgement for first responders, especially everything they've gone through in the last year and a half with COVID. We have an amazing team that was out here on the 9/11 ceremony, fire, first aid, OEM, CERT team that did a lot of work, especially during the pandemic. So more information to come. I just want to give everybody a heads up to look forward to that. It'd be great to see some people to come out and support our, acknowledge the work that our first responders do day in, day out. When power went out last night, those guys are on the roads, running the houses, checking on people with medical issues, making sure that people were safe. We had trees falling on houses, so all hours of the night, DPW, fire, first aid, police were all over the town last night. So an amazing team we have. Anybody else?
Hey, Mayor, did you say it was October 12th? that you
12th,
were-
the first meeting.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Our first meeting. I think it's the 12th. Is it 12th? October 12th.
That's a meeting night.
Meeting night, yep.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yep. Bell works, yep. Yep. Yeah, where we, yeah. Anyone else in public? Yeah.
Jay Yanelo, 18 Ladwood Drive. Ms. Roundtree, I just want to highlight, I didn't know Jerry was going to say that. I've seen at times some of our stormwater drains pretty badly covered with, not to say they're not functioning if water gets in them, but I really do think we might need to redouble our efforts to inspect them on a more timely manner. I don't know right now, but I've seen them before, and maybe if I come across them, I'll send you some pictures. Mayor Bontempo, we've been through this with JCP&L for... Yeah, I've said this many times. I was in the utility industry on Wall Street. I sat with the CEO of JCP&L about 18 years ago at a breakfast and said our service, the distribution system in Holmdel is atrocious. Again, this was 18, 19 years ago. I was an old CEO. So it's the same thing. I had relatives recently this summer in town, and we were driving around, and they literally out of nowhere, unprompted, said, I can't believe what your utility poles look like, how decrepit they are. And so I think just, even their tenants at Bell Works, that's nice. We're being played like fools here. So I think you and the town and the county and the senators, whoever, should kick it up a notch and go to First Energy. And Carl Icahn, by the way, has 2 board seats at First Energy. He's actively involved in there. Maybe he could care less because he wants to maximize profits, but I think you need to kick it up a notch. Maybe reach out to Icahn Enterprises. Maybe have one of their representatives come down here and look at the slumlord utility system we have. Notably last night, before the wind even really hit us, we lost power. I know we had some really big gusts and it went on and off. Do we know why that happened? Was that a controlled shutdown? I know they were talking maybe in the past about controlling when there was instability in the system. We barely even got anything and the power went out, at least in the Ladwood area, for a little while. So I think you deserve some answers last night. What was going on? Well, But in general, I think you got to take it higher because I think we're going to be here a decade from now with the same problem. Mr. Roundtree, I've been up here 2 years of asking about Holmdel Road with the county. Any update on paving that?
We've asked them. I haven't gotten a response on when they plan on paving that road.
Okay.
We've reached out. They know that we'd like them.
Because as I've said too, it's entertaining every time I'm on it, and sometimes I'm on it 3 times a day, how people are jockeying between the one lane. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. Now, you may think this is a joke, but this is something that's personal to me, but I think it's worth just putting on your radar screens. It's not a big priority, and that's LED lighting in town. I had a situation a few months ago where new people moved in 3 acres away, and they installed an LED light system over their pools, and it literally shined into my bedrooms. And I had to go out and say, and there's other instances where houses are getting... And there's businesses that are putting ridiculous LED lighting. I think at some point we as a town may want to consider, either through the zoning board or some ordinance, some sort of caution or limitations on the use of LED lightings, which can flood and drown out other people, and at some point be dangerous at intersections.
You done?
I'm done.
Okay. There is. Can you touch on that, Councilor?
Yeah, I would refer you to the recent development ordinance that was adopted. It was a lengthy ordinance, and there are provisions in there regarding lighting. I'm certainly not a planner, so I won't begin to speak to the technical terms, but there are considerations relating to lighting that are contained in there, and those could certainly be amended further if there's feedback that further regulation is required. But the committee did go ahead and
okay, because I thought you would actually laugh at me for bringing this up, but it's actually a serious issue, and it blows my mind how oblivious some people are when they put this stuff up.
And I would note the ordinance. I think there's time provisions in it, so there was a level of detail that I would definitely take a look at.
Thank you.
We had an issue with when Memorial Sloan Kettering first came in, the lighting that they had over on Milltown Road, Red Hill Road, Red Hill Road, where all those neighbors across the street, they couldn't sleep at night because it was coming. So we went to Middletown and they made them adjusted, but it could be very negatively impacting your quality of life.
Okay, and please consider the Carl Icahn route. You never know. Ron, you're laughing at me, but you never know.
You never know.
Okay, that's fine.
Anybody else in the public? Yes, sir. Okay.
I put some of my concerns in writing.
I
put some of my concerns in
state your
writing
name
for you.
and address for the record.
Diane Hennessy, 292 Middle Road.
Okay.
My
Dr. Thomas
husband,
Hennessy, 292 Middle Road.
Okay.
Wendy, I have copies for everybody. You can pass them. I don't want to forget anything. I'm here to talk about the violation of the sewer code at 290 Middle Road. This has been a long-term issue that we've been trying to deal with the township years. Recently, there was dropping of the prosecution of the violation. So we wanted an explanation as to why the prosecution was dropped. We have an issue with a septic tank on our adjoining property, which is antiquated, odorous, and leaking. We've asked for enforcement of the code multiple times in writing to the township, going back years. We believe that the violation was brought to the attention of the resident at 290, but then the charges were dropped. You developed these ordinances. I'm not sure why, because obviously you're randomly selecting to enforce them. We also like to know why a certificate of occupancy would have been issued to that home when you have an ordinance stating that there's mandatory sewer hookup.
We'd encourage you to ask all your
Go
questions, and then
through
we'll
it.
respond at the end if at all.
I'd just like to say that if this was a situation where you had a leaking septic tank that was odorous leaking onto your property, you might feel the same way that we do. The issue has to be addressed. We're demanding some answers tonight to this, please.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. So you could be seated. Whole answer from you could be seated. Whole answer from there.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Mayor, through the mayor, our ability to comment on your specific issues is limited for a variety of different reasons, including potential litigation, the fact that this was the subject of a municipal court proceeding. I see that you list the case number on the top. And so with respect to any of the decisions that were made by the township, with respect to that, that's in the discretion of the municipal prosecutor, not the township committee, and that would be in the discretion of the municipal court. And beyond that, I know that you're an adjoining property owner, and so I would, unfortunately, on behalf of the township, we wouldn't be able to comment any further on what is seemingly. If you could let me finish, sir, I'd like to. I'm trying my best to address your concerns while recognizing my role here is to protect the township and our inability to address many of these things because of the potential of litigation and the fact that there has been litigation between yourselves and your neighbors. So at the end of the day, looking at your questions, the township is aware of the concerns that you've raised and has responded in many of the ways that you note. And I would also note that nothing that the township has done or not done prevents you in any way from pursuing your own legal redress that you may or may not wish to pursue against your neighboring property owners with respect to the dispute you're referencing. Thank you.
Wait a minute. May I speak?
Yeah, come up and state your name and address. State your name and state your name. State your. If you get to speak well, you get to speak once. So I'm not recognizing you the first time. I'm recognizing you now.
Okay, thank you. Thomas Hennessy, 292 Middle Road, Holmdel.
Go ahead.
This issue was brought. The result of the lawsuit you refer to is you not enforcing the code. Everybody on the block has to hook up to sewer. One person decides not to do it, and there's septic tanks on my property. So what you're doing is abrogating your responsibility to enforce your own code and compelling my wife and I to handle a legal situation. That's totally unacceptable. And in fact, it's a willful hardship that's being unjustly thrust upon us. And the township has lost over $10,000 in revenue that they didn't collect off the person that's violating that. That's not counting Mr. Flieger's legal fees. So we're very upset about this. We don't want to sue anybody, but we expect the township to at least enforce the same laws for everybody else as they do for us. And I find it ironic that when I did my subdivision, I posted a $25,000 bond to be sure 2 houses that I'm not even building have to hook up to sewer. This is ridiculous.
I would just note, I certainly understand the commenter's perspective and concerns that they've expressed. Obviously, their purview is different than the township's purview. If the committee has any questions, we could certainly chat in a future executive session about this.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public? Yes, Bill?
Bill Cassening for Takalusa Drive. As I think most of you know, I'm the chair of the Environmental Commission, and I have been in touch with Rutgers, and they assured me the study will be completed at the end of October.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Good.
And midway through the month, I'll ask.
Okay.
Okay. The second thing is regarding what Prakash brought up. When we chatted the other day about potentially putting a stormwater basin or two on the properties that Holmdel owns behind TD Bank, only one of those is on, I did some subsequent research, one of those is on the Rossi. If you recently filed an update with your Green Acres application and you added the other one, I suggest you remove it. And I can send you an email on what those are. There's also the 2 JCP&L lots that are in Holmdel that could possibly be used. And then there's the APC property. They have a small sliver there as well. But I do support the idea of putting detention basins of the proper size there and design. I think it would go a long way to preventing flooding downstream. So I support that, and if the open space referendum passes and it does address flooding, and you can use the money for flooding, then certainly that's a choice you may have, and rather than using just general funds. So again, from a personal perspective, not a person who also is the executive director of Monmouth Conservation Foundation, I support the use of open space funds for flood protection and all the other uses. But that's from a personal perspective. It's not from a professional one.
I have a question. Would you be able to send us the list of land?
I'll send it to you. Will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody else in public? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming out.